Welcome to the Making Up the Numbers podcast. The Making Up the Numbers podcast is sponsored by Hope Technology, JTech Suspension, Revolution Bike Park, Ride Southern Spain, Schwal, and the world's finest independent mountain bike magazine, Singletrack.
Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of the pod. The season is now in full swing, and boy, do we have an episode lined up for you. Jack, I have to say, aside from that climb on stage 3, Val di Fassa EWS looked bloody brilliant. Was it as good as it looked?
It wasn't, actually. I did it 2 years ago, and it was great. It was one of my favourites. And this year, they just changed things up a bit. And in my opinion, like, they'd kind of made things a little bit more awkward and removed a little bit of flow in some spots. But I'm not really a fair person to ask, because stages 1 and 2, I struggled so much to ride them with my shoulder injury. They were rooty and there were compressions and holes, and that's exactly, especially on a trail bike, what my shoulder doesn't really like at the moment: unexpected movements. Yeah. So those 2 stages were, if anything, like the more downhilly, more technical ones, and I couldn't really enjoy them. So yeah, I'm a little bit biased, but yeah, that climb on stage 3, man, wow, like it was like an XC race on an enduro track. So I mean,
did you manage to pedal up it? Because you said you might be cyclocrossing it.
I ran up it, but I mean, I'm on a 34 tooth chainring with a 46 tooth cassette, and I didn't want to snap my chain. If I've got mates who had 50s, 52s, and they pedaled up it, but I got off and was like, I'm going to walk. And all the Commencal guys, my athlete manager, they were all on like the hairpin bend on it, just screaming. And I jumped off, looked up and saw Pierrick and was like, oh, I can't walk now. So I just ran. Like, it felt like Usain Bolt, but I was probably barely even putting one foot in front of the other. And they were just screaming in my ear. And they dragged me up there, to be fair. So
cool. You didn't race, did you? But how did Dan get on?
Yeah, I mean, we took Dan out because he's under 21 and he's never done one. So we were like, if he enjoys it and if he's podiuming, it's going to be worth it for the team to be going.
Yep.
And so far, his take on it is that he wants to be a downhill racer. So let's just say that. He came 8th and he came 6th. I wouldn't say he didn't enjoy it, but he also didn't really like the uphills, the lack of flow, the same kind of stuff that I don't really like about him. So we're going to Latuil next week. Let's see if it changes his mind.
Cool. How's the shoulder doing? Because do you think you're going to be able to hold on this week in Leger?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been building strength back into it, and I rode my downhill bike last Thursday on the off day, just to get a little bit of confidence back. That was in Val di Fassa, and then here in Morzine, I rode on Monday on Plenty Black. First run, I was literally like going so slow because I was like, is it going to hurt if I do a scrub movement? Is it going to hurt in repeated bumps? I didn't know. By the last run, I was felt pretty much like full charge, and it wasn't bothering me.
Can I just ask, was that first run the run when Brosnan caught you?
Oh, yeah, so embarrassing. So I'd seen Mick Hanna at the lift, gone up with Mick, Elliot, and Luca, and then just tootling down behind him, not trying to keep up, just going with him, and ended up going into one of the steep ones off the Plenty, and then Troy and the Canyon boys so happened to be coming down the same one, and I was like, shouldn't have even been there, like dog legging and like just dribbling down, and then it turned out that when I come out the bottom, the guy had been holding up was Troy. So embarrassing. I said to him, I was like, I've got a really bad shoulder, I swear. But yeah, obviously Troy didn't care. He just laughed and carried on. But instead of me whining on about my shoulder, because my understanding of what's going on with it is obviously fairly limited, I've been getting treatment off my mate Aaron, who is a sports physio, for the last 2 weeks. He was out in Val di Fassa, and he's actually on the podcast. And Aaron's going to tell you a little bit about what I'm going through and how he's treating it. So Aaron, I'm going to hand over to you. And rather than me just whinge, I'll let you add some detail.
Thanks for having me on and giving me the opportunity to describe kind of your rehab, the injury, and what we're doing to get you at your best for this Leger DH round. Yeah, man. The body's confusing. Medicine's confusing, so I'm always happy to teach and kind of explain to the listeners with similar injuries what's going on, so they can better understand their own body. So quick summary for those that don't know: Jack injured his shoulder and dislocated his shoulder in a crash 10 weeks ago while training at home. And then he re-aggravated it 2 weeks ago with a big off in Leogang in practice. And so an anatomy lesson for the shoulder. So the shoulder's a ball and socket joint. And so it's similar to that of a golf ball resting on a tee. So it doesn't have a ton of congruency and a ton of stability just with like the bony structures of the shoulder. But in return, we get a ton of range of motion. So we can put our arm overhead, we can put it behind our back, we can do all sorts of stuff with our shoulder. When you compare that to the hip, which is a deep ball and socket joint, we don't get as much of that mobility, but we get the stability. You don't hear about people dislocating hips. It's just like, it's way harder to do. It does happen though. Yeah. So the labrum, which is what I believe Jack injured, is a soft tissue lining on top of the socket of the shoulder. And so it adds a little bit more congruency to the shoulder, and it adds some shock absorption ability to the shoulder. But when the joint gets compressed or it's forced to its end ranges, it can be damaged. And that damage usually creates a path of instability for that ball to slip and to slide out of the joint. And if you take our golf analogy, if you think of the rim being indented on that tee, yeah, it's as if you put the ball on top of the tee and it's consistently sliding through that groove.
Right, I see, yeah. And it's pretty common injury, isn't it? I think the last podcast we did, there was Dan Wolf had done it. Yeah. Florian Nicolai had done it as well. Is it the most common injury you see?
Acute injury, like crash related injury, I'd have to say broken collarbone, but definitely similar forces, right? Like when you come off the bike and your arms reaching out to grab onto something or just to break your fall, the force has to go somewhere. So it either has to go by slipping the joint through its socket or the collarbone breaks or something like that. Like one of the nice things, like when we assess Jack, he has pain when he puts his arm overhead and he has some weakness in the back of his shoulder. And definitely kind of the most important piece of the assessment is he has that instability and like apprehension in the shoulder joint. Yeah. But when it comes to biking, we don't put our arms above our head. So the pain part isn't really there. And the instability that he has in his shoulder isn't in the direction that you see when you're riding a bike. So when you're riding the bike, most of the forces are coming from the front to the back, anterior to posterior. And so that position and those forces aren't going to put him at risk of a dislocation as long as he stays on the bike. So that's usually how you can see these people that have acute dislocations and they're able to get back on the bike because the forces that the shoulder's taking while on the bike aren't testing where that labral tear is. Yeah.
So how long until Jack's going to be fully recovered from this?
Yeah. So I guess Jack's biggest issue is that the instability that is created from that labral tear has the nervous system really like unconfident in what the shoulder can do. And Jack even just said there, it's like those unexpected impacts and hits. The shoulder doesn't know how to like create the right motor program or send the right signal from the brain to get the muscles to contract. So like his brain might send a good signal down, but then along the way that signal's going to those muscles. Along the way, that signal gets a little bit fuzzy because there's that apprehension and inhibition along the way. So that leaves Jack with this sense that his like right shoulder is different than his left shoulder. And then in addition, certain muscles tighten up in the back of his shoulder to help create stability because we know the shoulder's not creating that stability. And that further compounds the issue because now again, his one shoulder feels different than the other. So really we're in damage control right now, especially because it's like, we're in a race block, right? So we're trying to relax those tight muscles with like soft tissue techniques. And we've been doing some IMS, like dry needling. And then the key when you ask about how long it's going to take, we need to rebuild the brain's confidence in the shoulder through like good movement and exercise that doesn't cause any sort of pain and doesn't cause any sort of re-aggravation. Yeah. So it's like, for as many good steps we can take forward, if he comes off the bike and then re-aggravates it can be like 4 steps back. So it's just trying to stack more of those like good movements and positive rides that don't cause problems, and doing less of the coming off the bike and re-aggravating it. So it is that question's hard to answer for sure.
Yeah. Jack, do you think you can go full chat this weekend?
Yeah, I can for sure. But as Aaron just said, that the hardest part of it is believing in your body when you know there's a weakness there, and then especially when a track is littered with features and sections that you know is going to challenge that exact weakness you've got. It is really difficult to overcome that. So honestly, after walking the track, like, I wish we were just racing the old one, because I know the old one. It's just fast, like Aaron has said. I can just charge, and instead it's going to be lots of different sections with roots and slippy mud, and the bike's going to be bucking and kangarooing in spots as we're trying to learn the lines. So yeah, I'm going to have to be really smart and build confidence with my runs. And Dan's obviously going to have to help me with that. He's going to have to lead the way. And if between the two of us by third and fourth run, we can feel like we've got a line down the hill where I can trust myself to, we're good. Let's hit these entries and exits and get off the brakes and go. Then yeah. But if the bike is slipping and sliding and kangarooing around all day, then yeah, I am going to struggle to trust it and ride properly.
What's the forecast
the big
like?
Thing I think it.
Go on, Aaron.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just saying the big thing I find is it's confidence. And one thing we know with mountain biking is the more confident you go into a section, if it is those slippery routes, the more confident you go into that section, the better your bike performs and the better you perform. Yeah. So I think my suggestion for you would just be to try and, like, if you're going to do something, do it with full commitment, because it's going to go better than if you're trying to, as you say, dribble through a section and you're on the brakes and you're braking on slippery routes, then the shoulder's not going to know what to do. So it's definitely riding confidently, and that'll be the best chance to get the muscles firing in the way they need to and give you the chance to create that stability.
So Aaron, you're out there covering the EWS and a couple of downhill rounds. Have the riders been keeping you busy?
Yeah, most definitely. So I'm this year I'm working more as a privateer physio. Last year I was working with Giant, and so I'm traveling with some athletes that I work with and coach, and then also just spreading the word that I'm available for physiotherapy treatments in the evenings and after practice and stuff. And yeah, no, it's been great. I've been very busy, and kind of the word's gotten out quickly, and it's been cool to see a diverse range of injuries and being able to help many people rather than just, like, the 3 riders on your team that may not even get injured in a week. So yeah, it's been great.
Cool. Jack, what's the forecast like out there for the race?
Mixed. I mean, we're all hoping the rain's going to hold off. I think certainly Friday is the day with the best weather forecast. If you look at a BBC weather forecast, it now says we might get a little bit of rain this evening, then none until Saturday night. Yeah. But we're in the mountains in France, so we're all expecting it to just keep being a little bit moist, I think. So yeah, that's that. But I mean, just to add to what Aaron just said there, like, I can go into a session within so tight and restricted on movements in certain directions, and then come out of the session and all of a sudden I've got way more range of motion, and that in itself gives me confidence. So as a rider at our level, getting that kind of treatment when you're injured is essential, because that lifts you up. You're like, oh yes, I feel like so much better off the back of that, and I'm now going to be able to push that onto the bike. So yeah, I think I've seen Aaron 5 times now in the last 2 weeks, and when I first went in, I could barely even move my arm around, and now I can ride my bike without thinking about it. So excellent. So yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Aaron. We best get on with it.
Yeah, no worries.
First up, we're going to be hearing from the legend. Welcome to the show, Aaron Gwyn. How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure indeed. 2020 didn't turn out pretty bad for you, with a 6th in Maribor and a 4th in Loser, ending up 9th in the overall. I imagine that's probably not exactly what you were looking for coming into the season, but given everything that's going on in the world, were you happy with it?
Yeah, I would say, content, maybe not the happiest, but I felt like we made a lot of progress from the first week in Leogang for Worlds. I mean, it was maybe the muddiest race I've ever done. Yeah. But by the time we got to Portugal, I felt like I podiumed the first race at Portugal, and for the second race at Portugal, I really feel like I was able to win that race. I just wasn't able to put my race run together, and we had kind of a late rain and a few things that kind of threw everything off the rails. But yeah, I mean, overall, by the end of that sort of series of races, I felt like I was back up to speed and ready to like challenge for wins again. So it was a bummer not to get there sooner, but I was happy by the end of it, and, you know, excited for this year.
Excellent. If you look at the number of titles Greg's won over his career, it's pretty hard to dispute his position as the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I came to this sport pretty late though, and just as you were kind of getting going, really. And in my mind, you are without doubt the greatest that I've ever seen. There's no nice acronym for that, unfortunately.
Thanks, man.
But no one else has made me shout as many obscenities in pure disbelief at what I'm seeing. We all know the stats: 5 times World Cup champion, only person ever to win 5 races in a season. How hard is it to manage the expectation when you're battling injuries, when things just maybe aren't going right?
It's tough for sure. I think it's part of the sport. I think everybody that's successful has gone through, you know, tough years with injuries and stuff. So I would say, yeah, I mean, the expectations can be tough, but I think mostly it's just your own. It's tough on you more mentally because, you know, you should be at the front, and especially when you're racing injured and you're getting results that, you know, are just not where you would be if you were healthy and, you know, had time to prepare correctly. And especially for me, those couple of years, because there was a couple of World Cups I did that I should have just pulled out and kind of called it a day, but I just wanted to race so bad. I was trying to be there and race, and I was racing injured and just not getting the results I should be getting because I, you know, couldn't hold on to the handlebars, or I had, you know, things that were bugging me. So, I mean, I've ridden through injuries pretty good throughout my whole career, even when I was winning, but not injuries like the last few I've had that have really been tough. You can't just grit it through, you know, you just like physically don't have the strength to do things you need to do. So I'd say that's hard because you end up getting results that are, you know, a bummer and not where you should be. And then you're taking time off, and then you're, you know, going back and forth. And when you string that together for a year or two, it's tough, man, like for your body to completely heal and like rebuild your base of fitness and everything and really get strong. And then, you know, mentally get in the consistency you need to like have the confidence and everything. So I'd say that's all a challenge, and it's just something that takes time. So every time you get hurt, it just kind of keeps setting it back. So it was frustrating for sure.
You don't really get that many opportunities, do you? With only being 6, 7, 8 races a season, that's once you get out of rhythm, you're out of rhythm, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we usually only race for, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 months on a big season, and the last couple of years have been shorter than that. So if you have an injury in the middle of the season, you miss 3 races or whatever, you're only maybe racing 3 or 4 times a year, and then you go back to the off season for 6 months, and you're hanging out and training and all that. So it is tough. You end up doing a lot of training for a little amount of racing. So it's nice to finally, you know, have a year and a half or so healthy now and start to string them together. Even though we haven't been racing that much because of COVID, it's good just to have the consistency and be back at the races.
For sure. Following on from what George just said, I started racing World Cups in 2010 and didn't really watch too much of it before I was at the events. And I can fully relate to what George just said. Like the things you were doing in 2011 and 12 was like proper head turning stuff, and seeing the bar getting raised. The question I want to ask you is, when I watched Thibaut Duprella's race run in Leogang 2 weeks ago, although the run was a little scrappy, there were a couple of moments in the run where I watched and thought, this kid is trying to raise the bar again. Have you watched the race back? Did you see the run? And do you see a comparison of kind of the things you were doing 10 years ago to what he's almost did? I think that makes sense.
A little bit for sure. I think, his aggression on the bike and how hard he pushes everywhere is pretty impressive to watch. I think it definitely comes with an amount of risk that may or may not be hard to sustain every season without having big crashes. Because when you ride the edge that hard, it's really easy to have a big crash. So,
sure.
But I think that all out style. We were talking about it the other day, and I said, out of everybody on the World Cup circuit, if there's one dude that I probably wanted to watch his race run right now, it would be his, because like no matter what happens, he's going to be hanging it out. So that's I think that's awesome, man. It's fun to watch. And but yeah, it is tough to maintain that intensity race after race, year after year, and all the conditions, and not stack up injuries, So I think he's pretty young too, so I think he's still finding that balance, and I think he'll find it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely had that pretty hard charging style early on, but I felt like I did it without taking a ton of risk. I always felt pretty in control. I've never been one to like push beyond my limits consistently. And so, yeah, but yeah, it's impressive to watch for sure.
Yeah, you did always used to look like you knew exactly where the line was when you were on those runs. Okay, so the 6th last season came in the second of a double header race and the 4th in the first. It's just been announced this week that the final round in snowshoe is a double header. Do you like that format? Are you excited about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's cool. I like one of the things I don't like about the World Cups, and maybe for us because we have to travel so far to get here, it's not like we're racing in the States or whatever, where it's just a couple-hour flight. Like even for this race, we just came, from the US a couple days ago, and it's usually a 20 to 30-hour travel day to get over here and get settled in door to door. And then you get here, and then you wait around for a day, and then you do track walk, and then you wait around and you practice. It's just like a week of sitting around and waiting, and like compared to the amount of riding you do by the time you finally do like your 3 or 4 minute race run on Saturday or Sunday, you're just like, man, it was so much time put in just to do that run. So when you can kind of get in the zone, do a race, and then the next day you're like back into qualifying or practice and getting right back into the next race, I think that's really fun, because you can, you're there and you can just get a lot done in a shorter amount of time, and you're on your bike more and you can keep racing. And yeah, I think it's cool, man. And I'm stoked that they were able to add it, because I think for the fans and the racers, it's nice to have an extra round to kind of make up for the one we lost in Fort William. And yeah, so I'm stoked they could do a double header, and to do it in the US too will be kind of fun. We can kind of get more racing there for the fans.
Yeah, for sure. I loved that race 2 years ago, and 2 days ago I'd heard a COVID rumor that we were losing snowshoe. So to then hear the news that actually we've got a double header, that's great. So
yeah.
So we wanted to ask you a couple of historical things. 2011 and 2012, 9 World Cup wins out of 14 races. How did it feel to be that dominant, and what do you think separated from you from the rest at that time?
I don't know, man. I think it's hard. I think I just kind of had everything lined up. My fitness was good. My bike was good. My riding was really coming along, because I'd done, that was my, whatever it was, 3rd or 4th year on the circuit. And I think it was just everything coming together. I didn't have a lot of weaknesses, and I was pretty strong in a lot of ways. And yeah, things were just clicking and working good, and I was just kind of clicking them off. I think honestly, I should have won more races in that time. I definitely gave a few of those away. There was one of those seasons, I think it was 2011 actually, where I was really kicking myself, because I think I was leading Fort William by 5 or 6 seconds, and I crashed at the bottom. And then World Cup finals, I think, was actually in France. And I won qualifying, and I rode the finals so nervous, because I was trying to wrap up a title. It was actually second to the last race, and I was able to wrap it up a race early, but I rode like really bad. I ended up on the podium, but I remember being kind of upset, because I had wrapped up a title, which was awesome, but I felt like I gave away a race win. So that season, I was like, man, I feel like very easily could have won all the races. But I don't know, man. I guess being an athlete and racing as long as I have, even as a kid, that you go through tough seasons. And so when things are really clicking and you're winning, you definitely appreciate it a lot, because it ain't always that easy. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I think
so.
Sorry.
And I wouldn't say that it was easy at all that season. That season was full of all kinds of difficulties and things to overcome. But I mean, easy in the sense that like the wins keep coming. Sometimes it's like you're doing everything right and the wins just are not happening. So I think when they are happening and everything seems to just kind of fall in your favor consistently and you're winning, like it's a good feeling. And I definitely appreciate it. Like I said, knowing that it definitely doesn't always come that way.
Yeah, sure. I think there was at least one of those races, if I remember rightly, around 11 and 12, when you started almost saving yourself for world champs as well. Like you'd wrapped up the title, and so you didn't push yourself the week before world champs at a race. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't remember it too much. I remember the World Cups always being like the most important thing to me and always wanting to win those things. And I think both of those years, possibly at least 2011, I wrapped it up a race early. And then I think I won the final round too, because it was kind of like pressure off at that point. There was no points on the line. Like you either win it or you don't. And so those races were kind of fun because they were just kind of bonus races for me. But I felt like I always pushed pretty hard through the World Cups. I don't remember saving too much for world champs.
So at the end of 2019, Pinkbike listed their 20 greatest downhill race runs of the decade. You listed first for Leogang 2015, obviously the chainless one. 9th for Val d'Isole 2012 with a 7.85 second win. And 12th for Montagnard in 2017, the one when you came down in the rain. Which one of those means the most to you, or is there a different one that actually stands out in your mind?
Man, that's hard.
Good question again. There's a different one to me. Let's see if you pick it out as well. There's one that they're all special for different reasons. I think the chainless one is obviously special because it's something nobody's ever done before, and that's the one that like kind of put me into the next level. Like there's a lot of people that I meet still these days that don't follow mountain biking at all, but they've seen that video on YouTube somehow. And like when they end up figuring out who I am, they're always like, you're the guy that did the chainless run. And so it kind of like elevated my status beyond our sport, I guess. And so that one is cool. I still kind of blown away that I was able to make that happen. But yeah, I mean, the Val d'Isole one was awesome for sure. The St. Anne one was great because that one put me back in the title hunt after my flat a couple weekends before when I thought that title was over. And to do it in those conditions was great. I don't know. The first win in South Africa is definitely a special one. I remember that one just as well as any of them. So there's so many, man. It's hard to say. I think they're all pretty cool for their own reasons. Yeah, I remember the South Africa one because it was like, whoa, this guy has arrived. And the one that stands out in my mind was the Wyndham win. Was it?
Yeah,
like 3
that's the other seconds? One for sure.
And it was just like, whoa. So I can't remember what year that was, but that was
probably almost the funnest one after the race because my parents were there, my grandparents, we had like a lot of family there, friends, and to do that in front of the home crowd, like the fans there were insane. Like the photos that we have from the finish of that area with people like running behind me with chainsaws on the track and stuff was like one of those I don't know, man. I remember that just being a really fun night after hanging out with the fans and my parents and the team and everybody. Like that definitely sticks out for sure as one of my top few.
Nice.
First race of this season in Leogang, you seeded 18th and finished 22nd. You said on your Instagram that you need to be better. Did the off-season go well, or do you think you've come in a bit behind?
No, off-season went really good. I felt like I had a really good off-season. I put in a lot of work. I feel really good fitness-wise coming into this year. We did a lot of testing. I felt like we did everything we could. That race was just tough for me, and I really struggled kind of in that bottom section of the track, and it just ended up kind of messing up my whole run, I think. And I felt like I rode it decent in finals. I just didn't really take the risk I needed to, and I didn't kind of just get up to speed fast enough in those conditions. So it was just tricky for me. And the mud there is just way different. Like I ride mud pretty decent, and I've won some rain races and all that kind of stuff, but that like steep skid rut in the mud with roots in the rut and that like slow riding where you're not really going fast and you're just kind of picking your way down. Yeah. That is just stuff that I never really have a chance to do. And it's, I like tracks that are fast and you can charge whether they're wet or dry or whatever, at least you're going fast. These are like, you know, you're literally almost trials biking your way down some sections. And so that's just, I just struggled at that track really. Is what it came down to.
And you're fully fit at the minute?
Yeah, I feel good. I felt really good at the end of that run, actually crossing the finish line. I was like, man, I was wishing I would have charged a little bit harder and took some more risk and whatever, because I felt like my body is definitely up for it.
So in 2019, you didn't start Leger after injuring yourself in Andorra. It looks like an amazing track. We've walked it now. It's got fast sections, steep sections, big jumps, routes. It's kind of got everything for us. Are you excited after walking the track?
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's an interesting mixture. It definitely has a little bit of everything. Like you said, I think a good portion of the track is stuff that I love, like wide open, fast, like a lot of lines, really wide. And then they've added a bunch of new sections, it looks like, that are more like kind of that bottom section at Leogang, like really steep, off camber, rooty, muddy, like technical, sort of drag your brakes down stuff. So it's going to be a challenge for sure. I think a lot of the track I really like, and a lot of it is kind of the opposite of what I generally like. So it's, I think everybody's feeling that way after walking it, though. It's, if the track dries up and it doesn't rain anymore, which is probably unlikely because it seems to rain pretty much every day here. I think the track would be really good, but if it rains and it's muddy, it's definitely going to be one of the gnarliest tracks I think we've really ridden. It's pretty, I don't know. I haven't been here in the past, like you said, but it definitely looks like they've made it a lot more difficult this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. Like, it's, if I'd come here at the start of my career, having just raced a load of UK stuff, I would have probably walked all the technical stuff and gone, oh yeah, this looks great. I can go slow and keep my way through the mud. But after racing World Cups for 10, 11 years, now I, like yourself, I like charging, and I walk that and I go, oh, this is going to be so difficult to ride fast. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It's your third season running the Intense Factory Racing team. Are you feeling at home there? And do you think it's where you want to finish your career?
Yeah, I do. I think we've got a good thing going. I really enjoy the people that I work with. The team is awesome, obviously, since, I've kind of been working with all these guys for quite a while now, but, with Intense too, like I really enjoy everybody there, Jeff and Jeb and, Chris and Chappie and Christy and the whole team over there that we work with is all, a lot of people I actually knew for a long time before I even went to Intense. So I feel like, it's just a good group of people, and it's exciting to be a part of. I think Intense being such a legendary brand and having the history that they have in downhill racing specifically, and their passion for downhill racing specifically, I think is kind of probably unmatched by any other brand. Like that's their whole deal. And there's still, Jeff is like, dude, we're racing over everything, almost maybe to a fault as a business, where they're like, we just want to be good at downhill racing. And now I think with how they've been rebuilding the brand these last few years and all the work they've been doing behind the scenes, all that stuff's kind of starting to pay off. And it's been fun to be a part of it and kind of try to bring Intense back to, being one of the top few premier brands again. So it hasn't been easy. We've had a lot of work to do, and we've had, probably less resources, and we've been spread thin on people and stuff, just trying to really make things happen and be efficient these last few years. And I think COVID, definitely made that even more difficult. But I think we're getting to a point now where these next few years can really be successful in a lot of ways. And we've got a lot of cool things we're working on as a company and as a team, and also with the bikes that are going to be coming out and different things that are really exciting. It's all been good. And I think we still have a ways to go. We're still working on the downhill bike, and I think we can make more improvement there, and we're still learning. And, it's just been cool. I think we've had to be a bit patient with the work we've been doing, but I think these next few years, things are really going to start to look pretty cool for the brand. So I'm just excited to be a part of that kind of process.
Nice. So as you just said, it's your second full season on the Intense 27.9. Something you're still modifying by the sounds of it. Yeah,
for sure. I think it's, it's a new wheel size bike. I haven't ridden any other brand's bike like that. So it's been something new that we've been learning. Also learning kind of the VPP suspension design and all that kind of stuff. I haven't, ever ridden that in my career. So we've been kind of figuring out how to get certain things I want out of that bike design and things that it's strong, and kind of blend it with, things that I want. It's been a learning process, and thankfully Intense, Jeff's all about prototyping and tweaking on stuff and working on things. And It's taken a little more time than we hoped, I think, because of COVID and just, you know, all the different things we've had going on. But I think we're getting to a pretty good place with the bike. And I really feel like we've got some more things that are in the works right now that hopefully we'll have in the next month or two. And once we kind of get some of those things rolling, I think we're going to be getting really close. So it's looking good. We still got some work to do, but I'm happy with where we're at.
Nice. Can I just jump in there? Yeah, I have to ask, what is it that you look for in a bike? What are you?
Oh, what a question. How long you got, Aaron?
Yeah, I know. I was like, where do I start? I can't tell you that. No.
Long reach, short chain stays. That used to be.
Yeah. I think now you just want a bike that's really well-rounded, something that's easy to set up, you know, doesn't do anything too crazy one way or the other, because you're usually making, you know, sacrifices. If you go nuts in one direction, then you're losing something else. So I think for us, I like to ride just a really well-rounded bike. It's easy to dial in with the suspension, all that kind of stuff. And I think just getting the frame geometry and the kinematics and everything kind of to what I like a bike that's pretty lively and pretty fast, and you know, something that maybe isn't like the most massive bump plowing bike ever, but something that's real efficient to ride. But yeah, kind of trying to find that mix, because it's tough too. The tracks seem like they're continually changing. And, you know, some seasons you're like, man, I wish I had a bike that was just like a massive sled that you could bomb through everything. So then other races, when things get real tight and technical, you're like, yeah, kind of, you know, something different. So you really just try to make a bike, like I said, that's well-rounded kind of all around, and that is, you know, versatile track to track and doesn't have any major weaknesses. So I think there's a variety of ways that we try to get there, but I'd say in a nutshell, that's it.
Nice. Any idea when the downhill bike's going to be commercially available, and is it going to be carbon or alloy, or is that all in the pipeline?
I don't know exactly when it's going to be available. I think it'll depend on kind of this next version of it that we're working on right now, and when we can get that done and how successful it is. Once that's done, if it's good, you know, I think they definitely have plans to get things rolling as soon as possible. And I would venture to say that there will be an aluminum and a carbon version available in time, with potentially the aluminum one coming out sooner, but we'll see.
Cool.
You've probably been
there may be a resurgence of aluminum intense frames in the future. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if I can say that, but I can neither confirm nor deny, but we'll consider it.
You've probably been responsible for more product development than any other rider. Does it ever feel risky working with brands that aren't as established at a World Cup level?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's always a risk when you're coming in with a brand that's unproven and the product hasn't, you know, performed in the past or won races or anything. I think with somebody like TRP or something, for example, and we've done this with a couple brands. YT's another one. Now we're working with Kenda again to try to get them back up there, and a little bit with Intense, I guess, but they're, I mean, beyond proven. But yeah, I think for me, I really enjoy being able to do that. To be able to take a brand that kind of has dreams, that want to run races, and when you know that they're committed to it, that's really what I look for. So even with TRP, when we signed on, I mean, no one even really heard of TRP. I think everybody's probably had a set of Tektro brakes on their BMX bike as a kid or something, but a lot of people don't know that's TRP. And them trying to make the switch into kind of high-end mountain bike stuff was interesting, you know, but I was like, hey, I'll give it a shot. So they came out and tested with us early on, and the brakes weren't quite there, but I could see that they were close. And I just really liked the vibe that I got from the engineers and the people that I was talking to. I was like, okay, you guys get it. Like, you're committed to the cause. You understand. Like, I have confidence that the product will get there pretty quick because of the team of people that we were working with and talking to. So I think that's what gave me confidence to sign with them. And it actually didn't take long. We ended up winning our first race together. I think it was in Lourdes. And so that, I think that is what I look for, is just, you know, maybe it doesn't have to be the best product in the whole world to start out with, but if I've got confidence in the team working on the product, that they're going to give me their all and that they have the resources to make it. And I feel like John and I working together, John's actually sitting right here next to me, hanging out. But You can say hi. Hey, John.
Hi, John.
But if we kind of like, I believe we have the feedback between the two of us to make a product great. So if we, if I feel like the people are going to take the feedback serious and be efficient at getting things turned around pretty quickly for us, that we can get there. Yeah. And then, like I said, it's just very satisfying, I guess, to take a brand that had dreams to win World Cups, just as I did when I came into the sport, and to be able to do that for the first time with them and the excitement around doing that. And it's just a really fun process to be a part of. And I remember that with YT really clear too. I remember Stefan, one of the engineers that became good buddies with over time, he was like, man, I had a dream that I was at a World Cup and you were on the podium winning and I was next to you and that our bike was on the podium. And, like he had that dream for a long time. And I remember him telling me about that before France I think it was actually right after we signed our contract. And I was like, well, dude, I look forward to, making that happen for you. And we were able to do it at the first World Cup, and he was up on the podium, I think at one point, and the bike was up there and he was like crying and stuff. And it was just like such a cool experience because he put a lot of work into that bike and all that stuff too. So to be a part of things like that are kind of memories and experiences that I think stick with you for a long time. So it does come with more risk, and it doesn't always work out, but when it does, it's definitely pretty special.
Aaron, when you're in that position that you've just described there with YT, are those podium moments very different to the ones you had at the start of your career, where it was probably more of a personal achievement to be up there? Say, for example, that South Africa win. Did it feel very different? Was it more of like, oh, I'm relieved that we've got these guys where we wanted to get them? Or was it still very
I'd say it's a little bit of both. I think everybody that I've really raced for, honestly, has kind of been in that position, minus maybe Specialized. They had a lot of success before I came in with Sam and some of their other guys. But track, when I came onto track, I don't think they had won a World Cup in a long time for the male class anyways. I think Tracy had been pretty much dominating in the women's class, but but they're a bigger brand and they had won stuff in the past. But I think it's always cool because you always work with the engineers and the teams. And I really love to be involved in the process and with communicating with whoever our head sponsor is. So when you win, it always feels like a team effort and you're always stoked for everybody. And it's definitely a good feeling when you can go back to the shop after the race and everybody's just like pumped up and all that. So I don't know if it's changed too much throughout my career. I think it's always been cool because it's always a group effort and you're always excited for everybody. They're working really hard as well. So it's always a team win. So that's something that I'd be really excited if I can do that for Intense, hopefully this year, and kind of, bring them back up to the top and do that together will be really cool. So that's what we're working on. So we'll see how it goes.
You mentioned Kenda a few minutes ago. You've been working throughout the off season on a new tire, I believe. Tell us a bit about that, and will you be running it this weekend?
I'm not sure if we'll be running that tire. It really depends on if it rains more or not. If it dries up, I think for sure I'll be on it because it's perfect tire for kind of this track and the dry. If it keeps raining a lot, there's a good chance we'll be on the Grand Mudda tire, which is basically our mud spike tire. So we will see. But yeah, that tire has been coming along really good. It's really filled out the range really well. The mud tire we have is awesome. And that Pinner hard pack tire is really good in those conditions. But we really needed a tire that was kind of in between, especially at the World Cups. A lot of the tracks end up kind of being this in between condition where you need a tire that can really brake well in the steep stuff and has a bit more knob on it for, stuff like this when it's a bit softer. So this tire, and we've been messing with some combos. Sometimes I run a Pinner on the front with the intermediate tire in the back, or, we run full Pinners or full intermediates or, whatever. So I feel like this tire is kind of the perfect, in between tire with what we were looking for. So now we've got a really good all around range of tires for kind of whatever the track is looking for.
Sweet. Random question I had. Do you still ride with earplugs in? And if so, could you just explain to us a little bit about why you do that? Because I'm not aware that any other riders do it. I might be wrong, but...
Yeah, I don't know. It was something I tried. I haven't been doing it now for a while. I had done it years ago. I liked how it quieted everything down, especially at a track like Fort William or somewhere where you're going so fast and there's so much wind noise. when you put those things in, everything gets, I mean, really quiet. You don't really hear anything except for yourself breathing. So it's a bit of a weird experience when you do it. But yeah, I had kind of tried it for a while and I liked it, and I was running them for a while. And then, I don't know, I've kind of stopped now. It's not something I really mess with. It's tough because you kind of got to be committed if you're going to do it. It's not like, you know, you got to have them all the time, and they're kind of a pain in the butt to be practicing with and stuff. And you don't really want to like practice without them and then put them on for the race. And so it's kind of got to be one way or the other. But yeah, they're kind of tricky, and they're also hard because when you're off the track and you're riding through the pits with earplugs and everybody's yelling at you and saying hi, and they think you're completely ignoring them. you kind of make some people mad because you're just like totally oblivious to everything that's going on around you. But right now I'm not running them, but I have in the past.
We'll finish with a hypothetical question. Win another 3 World Cups and take another overall, so you'd have the most World Cup wins and 6 championships, or win a World Championships.
Oh man, that's a hard one. I think either would be incredible, but I would take the most World Cup wins and another World Cup title if I had to pick one, because that's 3 race wins over 1, and World Cup titles I think are just, I don't know. You have to have an entire really good season to do that. And that's kind of what I'm all about. But obviously not winning a world champs yet is very high. If you were going to ask me, you know, a world champs or a World Cup win, I would say world champs 100%. But I don't know. Hopefully we can get both and we won't have to choose one or the other.
I thought you might say both. Well, best of luck for the weekend and for the rest of the season. And thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Really appreciate it. Guys.
Appreciate it.
Excellent. We'll be back after these messages. Camille, Balanche, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for making the time. We last spoke with you just after your World Champs win last season. Has it sunk in yet?
Yeah, I think definitely more than when we spoke last time. I got to wear the rainbow jersey for like 6 months now. So yeah, I kind of realized that I have it, it's mine, and that I can ride with it. So that's really cool.
8th and 7th in Maribor, 6th twice in Loser. When I spoke with Reese a few weeks ago, he said that it was all just a lot to take in after winning Worlds and he needed to kind of reset a bit. Is that how you felt?
Yes, definitely. It was so hard because obviously it was so cool to win, and then I got a lot of attention, a lot of interview, and then same times I couldn't rest because the same day we had to go to Maribor, and then it was just, honestly, it was too much mentally, and then also the weather didn't help. It was cold and raining, and honestly I think physically it was kind of okay, but mentally I was cooked, and it was really hard then to reset and be like, okay, now it's a World Cup again, and then it was like again and again and again, and then it was like back-to-back World Cup, then Swiss Champ, then back-to-back World Cup, and it was just too much. I never had the time to just go back home, just reset and be like happy to go again. So that's also probably, I was a bit scared racing, and I didn't feel so confident, and I was just like, I want this season to end, even though it was just the start. It felt like it was such a long season. So I felt the same like Reese for sure.
So tell us a bit about your off season. It looked like you and Emily were working hard in the gym, but I guess Instagram is half the story. Did you guys do anything differently this year to normal training wise?
Yeah, I will say a couple of things. Like we both took the same trainer and a new one, which was quite different training wise. Like, we did a lot of different stuff, new stuff in the gym and on the bike as well. And then we could do a lot of training camps with the team, and also we had the possibility to ride with the Commencal engineer and all the stuff. So I don't know if you heard about it, but they created a track especially for the Commencal rider, where they tried to put in it all the stuff we have at the World Cup, and then we could got feedback from Anne-Caroline Chausson and like all the stuff, and then the engineer were there, and we could try to set up the bike as good as we could, and I think that helped a lot too. And then we try to work hard like everyone else, but really different. I think that was different. And then the trainer, and otherwise it was pretty much the same, I would say.
Nice. So did you find that as world champion you've had more commitments this winter?
Not because I was world champion. I would say just because it was I was going to my third season, and that helps a lot to know how the season gonna look like, what I need to work on. And I was also more ready now. The past year was more like all getting that experience and just focusing on just riding my bike. And now I feel like I know a bit more my weakness and my strongness, and I try to work a lot on my technique this winter. So that was probably the difference, and not because I was world champion. I don't think it changed anything for my training on it, honestly.
Nice. And did you have to do other things during the winter because of being the world champion? Did you have other interviews to do, or were there things keeping you busy away from training, or not?
No, it was okay. I mean, it was crazy just after the world champ, but then it was just maybe once every 2 weeks or so. So it was totally okay.
Calm
like
down.
It was manageable, for sure.
Cool. So it was back to Leogang for the first World Cup of the season, and for you, same result, and your first World Cup win. Just how big of an achievement was that for you?
Honestly, huge. Like the biggest so far I had, because for sure now winning a World Cup was a goal of mine, but like in the future, it's like in the back of your head, and it's like the thing that motivates you like to train hard. But I never thought I'm gonna be able to do it now. And for sure I felt really confident on that track, but I also know how fast everyone else, and everyone is back, and everyone is stronger than last year. So I didn't expect that, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I was super excited watching on the screen when you were coming down, and then your fourth split come up, and I was like, oh my God, she's in contention. It was a really exciting race, actually. You seeded fifth, but you were 12 seconds back on Valley. 7 of those seconds were in the final sector. Going into your race run, did you feel like you could win, or was that not a goal?
It's just like I knew I could do better, because I went in a tree in the wood in my quali run. So it was not too bad, because like I hit the tree with a pad, and then it sent me next to my bike, but I didn't crash. So I could just jump on it. So I might not have lost like 10 seconds, but I knew I lost some seconds there. Mm-hmm. And then, I just knew I can ride well. But honestly, I didn't look at the sector really, or at the split. I just tried to see where I can win some more second and focus on myself. And I wanted to be back on the podium, because it's always nice, but I wasn't like thinking I could win.
Okay.
So based on, just following on from what Jack said then, I think that's the best women's race I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I think part of it, a little bit of it, was Tracy's commentary as well. I thought Tracy was amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. She knows the girl so well, and she knows how it feels. And it was. Yeah, I rewatched the whole race on Red Bull TV, and it was really cool to hear.
So Valley comes into that final sector, and she's up. It's a local track. Despite a young age, she's probably done more laps on it than anyone. Are you thinking that's it? She's got it?
Oh, yeah, not because she did. I don't think it's because she knows the track so well. It's just because, honestly, she's so talented and so fast. But I knew she can beat me easily on that track. And I thought at that point where she crashed, like she would have made it to the bottom, because it was the last corner. So I was like, she's 3 seconds up, or like 4, I don't remember. And then she crashed. I was like, oh, no way. And just after she crashed, honestly, I thought, that's it, is good. And then I realized, oh, fuck, but she went up really fast. So then I was like, oh, actually, she can still make it. And then, for a second, it was okay. But
That was going to be my next question, because I've always wondered, like, it's one of those awkward ones, isn't it? You know, like you're sat in the hot seat, but the rider crashes, and when they're up, it's a bit like, how do you react? Because, you know,
yeah, it's
crashed.
always hard, and yeah.
I think honestly, it's just as long as they're not injured, then it's
yeah. But also you don't really. It's like your emotion, you don't really control them, and you're just sitting, and then you saw it, you're like, and then same time you just realize, oh, like maybe I'll win. So you're happy, not happy for her for sure, but you're still happy for you for sure. I mean, it's normal. But then at the end, I have huge respect for everyone, especially for her, and it will be totally okay if she beat me that day.
So 90% of this sport is in your head. Do you feel now that you've won 2 big races that you're a genuine contender?
Yeah, I hope so, but I don't know. It was a Leogang. It's a track that suits me for sure. Like I love it, and I think on a similar track, maybe like here in Léger, also look like it could be for me. Then I think I can do well, but winning is something really hard, and it's also up to the other. So for sure I'm in a good mood, and I'm in a really confident at the moment, and I can help. But at the end, you also still have to ride fast your bike, and even though in your head, if you're ready, doesn't mean that you're gonna be the fastest down the hill. But at the moment, it's like crazy for me. It's just everything that happens to me is just amazing, and I'm really glad. It's like that at the moment.
Nice. So you won the first World Cup of the season. Monica was 3rd. Benoit was 5th in the men's. Then Benoit went on to win the first French Cup last weekend with Baptiste 3rd. For the 2nd season in a row, your team is probably outperforming all expectations. Tell us a bit about life on the Dorval AM Commencal team, and what are you guys doing right to make this so good?
I think a big part of it is because we take also the rider before that they are performing, and then we don't have a huge budget, so we can just take the best one already. And then I think taking the riders from the beginning, and then don't pushing any pressure on them, or like not much pressure, because we don't expect like the rider to be on the podium every weekend, because we should, normally we are like a little team, and so I think that's helping a lot, because the atmosphere in the team is just so cool. We are like a family, and I'll say also because of like the team, how it's made, like with 2 men elite the same level, and with 2 girls elite almost the same level, and the junior was already really fast. We are like really pushing each other, but everything in a good way.
Yeah.
And I will also say that maybe Dorval AM, it's a bit more focused on the rider side, maybe to make our life better with like how the pit is built, and putting a lot of budget for the training camp, maybe rather than some other team who are like putting the budget for the marketing or like the image of the team. So it's a shame we are not doing videos and stuff like that, which I think is cool and it's always good. But then on the other side, we're using that money for us really like to help us performing and be better. So I also think that's why we are doing so well at the moment. And it's always easier when you are the underdog to perform than to be like, this should be the best team and always under pressure and expecting from anyone. So I guess it's also easier to be the underdog.
Yeah, for sure. So based on the first World Cup, the new prototype Commencal Supreme that the Muck-Off team and Angel are using looks like it goes very well. Any ideas when you'll get your hands on one?
Yeah, I think it's planned that we have it in February next year. And even though it will come earlier, no one in the team wants to ride it before, because we just spent so much time testing the bike this winter, and we have a really good setup at the moment, and nobody on the team wants to change in the middle of season, which sure. I also understand.
Absolutely.
I think you've probably the only team that's ever had 2 elite women that I can remember, which is absolutely fantastic to see. Tell us a bit about the women's field this season, because it's shaping up to be the most exciting season we've ever had.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, it's crazy. If you ask me now, who can win a World Cup this year, I'm going to have to tell you like 10 names, because there's so many good girls at the moment, and it's stepping up, and it's just crazy to see that even last year Nina could win, come now in the front, and for sure Vali now, and Veronica Wittmagen is back, and Emily is back from injury, and just even now even new riders coming in. So yeah, it's just crazy. Like, the field it's really huge, and I think it's so cool to see that the podium is changing. Also, it's not always the same. I feel like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, you had Rachel Atherton who was like dominated, and then maybe for 1 or 2 races someone else was winning. But now I feel like 10 people can win, which it's sick. Yeah, it's really interesting.
And do you feel that the standard of competition is pushing you on and making you a better rider?
Right now, I think they could do better for us. Honestly, like, imagine if they will change like the qualification for the top 20 girls, or even better training time. That will be even better. But I don't know. Like, I just think everyone tries to be better, and the level is just getting better, and the technique as well, and the bike. So now I feel like we are more able to ride the same track as the men, and we are fine with pretty much all the big jump and stuff now. So it's really cool.
It's cool. You were 7th last time out in Leger. I imagine you've walked the track today. Are you excited for the weekend?
Oh yeah, a lot. I mean, it's pretty different from 2 years ago. It's more steeper, more slippery, more like more open. We're gonna see a lot different line, and the track gonna change so much during the week. So I'm really excited to see how it's gonna look like for the finals. And right now it looks amazing. It's been raining tonight again, and I think it's gonna be wet for sure. But it's so cool to have a new track, and it looks wide open, pretty fast, huge jumps. So yeah, I'm loving it.
Excellent. It's just been announced this week that the final round in snowshoe will be a double header. Did you like the double header format?
Honestly, I didn't like it last year because it was too much at the same times. But this year they put a rest day in between, which I think is really good. And anyway, I think it's really good to have more rounds. We should be able to do like at least 12 World Cup in a year from my side, because with just 4 or 5 rounds, like if you do one mistake, you don't have any chance for the overall, and then it's really hard. You have to perform every races, and I feel like if we have more races, you have more chance to have a track who suits you, and you have more chance to do well, and more chance to be represented for the sponsor, and so I think it's just really good. They try to do more round, and going to snowshoe in the US, which is a big trip, make it a bit cooler to stay a bit longer. So yeah, this season I think it's good to have a double heater in snowshoe.
Cool. And what are the aims for the rest of the season now you've won one?
just the same, really. Having fun on my bike, trying to ride as fast as possible, staying healthy, and just hope it's gonna stay on the same wave than now.
Cool. Well, I know the rest of the field are going to push you, but if you can keep riding,
probably,
if you can keep riding like you are, I think there's more wins on the horizon. Best of luck for the season, and thanks for making the time to come on the pod.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Cool. We'll be back with Joe Breeden after these messages. Joe Breeden, welcome back to the podcast. First question. Our chat with the Big Bad Wolf was probably the loosest interview we've done since season 1. You were teammates with... You what, sorry?
I can imagine.
You were teammates with Dan last season. What's your favourite Big Bad Wolf story?
There must be so many. Yeah, that's a very difficult question. I mean, it's hard to remember any specifically because there are so many. It's just like a regular occasion on a trip with Dan. But I don't know. Well, to start with, he's dead funny. So entertaining. All you need is, him with everybody else, and he'll make it a hell of a time, whether it's a meal or a ride or whatever. But he does also flip pretty quickly. So, like, if the waiter, for example, the other night, the waiter came with the receipt for the meal, and Dan, Wolfie had left his card on the table to try and pay for it. Well, to pay for it when the waiter comes over, and Wolfie was obviously chatting as he always does. And whilst he's chatting, the waiters picked his card up off the table and then tried to pay for it with the scanner. And when Wolfie finds out that he's trying to scan his card, he's like, whoa, what are you doing, mate? Like, you can't just pick up my card and pay for it. So, he can switch pretty quickly to real calm Wolf to like, oh, God, this is the worst thing.
He does get pretty angry. I woke him up the other morning with...
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Lily. It was like almost 10 in the morning, like, get up, Dan. So we snuck in there, woke him up. Dan, your Instagram's been hacked, because that's like his most precious thing in the world. And it didn't land well.
He can definitely switch, and it's quite funny to play with it, but you got to be careful too, because
we were just the right side of the line that one anymore, and it would have got violent, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. No, he's brilliant. I love that bloke.
So your last appearance on the pod was at the start of 2020. Since then, we've had the shortened 2020 season, and you got 32nd and 29th in Maribor and 31st and 10th in Lucca. Talk us through the 2020 season. Were you happy with it?
Seems like a long time ago now. It was okay, yes. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I was really happy, and it wasn't, I was really disappointed. It was a good season, but I was definitely struggling a little bit to ride with commitment. And I was always just a bit too on the side of caution and safety before like going for the win, if that makes sense. So it was an okay year. It was definitely some really, really great experiences. And I think it was first year with the UR team, and getting to know everybody, learning all the new products, the new sponsors was really, really good, and huge lessons learned. Cool. But I feel much more comfortable coming into this year, and I feel in a completely different mindset as well. So last year was good, but it was difficult for sure.
Cool.
So you're one of the riders that seems to be making progress every season. 2019, you had that first place qualifier in Val di Sole. As we just mentioned, you finished 2020 with a 10th at the second race in Lucca. Do you feel like it's all moving in the right direction?
Yes, for sure. Nothing, goes perfectly as you want it to, and that's just part of the game. We all know that. But like the general trajectory to where I want to go, I'm very happy with, and I'm still young. I'm very happy with the progress so far. So I couldn't complain at all.
For sure. One thing we wondered about was if Matt Walker's success last season had given you confidence. You finished second to him at World Champs as a junior, and now he's winning the World Cup overall. Does that make you think, well, if he's doing it, I can be up there as well?
It for sure helps. I know we've come from, we grew up racing. I said that many times on podcasts before, but I grew up racing directly against him my whole sort of juvenile youth, junior career. And we were always very close. He always had the edge on me. But then to see that we've kind of had the same trajectory, like we've done the same event, same races, etc. And then to see him, make it all the way to the top is for sure like inspiring and does bed into me more that, there's no reason why I can't as well. Because I've seen it all. Well, obviously I don't see what he does exactly behind the scenes, but I've been very there with him following that path to the top. So it's been cool to experience that. It just makes it all possible, doesn't it?
Yeah, I remember when you guys were in juniors and Jack Tennyson was his teammate, and I think kind of Matt beat him by a couple of seconds every race. And then obviously Jack's now quit the downhill. He's doing an amazing job as the social media manager for YT Mob, fantastic photographer. But I do wonder sometimes if he thinks I was coming second to Matt every week, 2 seconds behind or whatever. If I was still only 2 seconds behind Matt now, I'd be a top 10 rider.
Yeah, that's very true. It's always difficult, particularly for Jack, because he was directly teammates with Matt. no matter how good he is, if he's still just getting beaten week in, week out, it does knock you down. Yeah. And I was similar. I was never on the same team as Matt, but we were like, every race I was putting everything in, getting so close. Like I won a few, but majority of the time he was on top, and it does beat you down. But for me, it just motivated me to keep working, to keep chasing, like getting to the top. And I think that's what's helped us both get to where we are now, because neither of us could just turn up to a British national race and win comfortably. We had to like go and give it everything and then leave the race, do everything we could training preparation wise for the next one. So I think it's, pushed us both massively. And clearly, like, we've both not given up and we've kept fighting, and that's been one of the most difficult things, but it is why we're here now today.
Cool. We saw lots of images of you, G and Charlie training with Milway in the off season. How hard does he push you, and who's doing the best numbers at the moment?
Yeah, we've had a really, really good winter, actually. It's great training as a group like that because we all push each other on. We all want the best for each other, but we're super competitive too. So when somebody does a certain number, everybody wants to beat it, and we like push each other on. So it's great. In terms of who's doing the best numbers, you can't say. We're all different body weights. We all have our like preferred exercise, etc. But we all push each other on massively. It's really, really good. And
have you spoken to G? Do you know how he's doing?
I haven't spoken to him personally, no.
Well, we hope G's on the mend and doing well. You stayed with the UR team in the off season, but the team changed bike sponsor from Polygon to NS. Tell us a bit about the new bike and how you're getting on with it.
Yeah, so we made the change from Polygon to NS. It's a completely different bike, very different characteristics, but it was nice. I pulled it out of the box and it worked straight away, and it was competitive straight away. The only thing I've changed is I've put a mullet, 27.5 rear end onto a 29 front end, but it's a standard front end and a standard rear end, just the two joined together. That's literally the only change I've made to the frame. So it's like super nice to be able to do that and be comfortable straight away. Last year, there was definitely a lot more work to get to that point. And I think, the fuzz, the NS fuzz, the downhill bike I race it's quite a simple design. It's basic, but it just does it really, really well. And I'm really enjoying it and feel very comfortable on it. Sizing geometry, again, was perfect. So I haven't had to play with any of that. So yeah, it's really, really good.
Cool. What size are you on?
I'm on a large. They do a small, medium, and large, but it comes with headset cups, so you can make it 8 mil further forward or 8 mil further back in the headstock. So their ways, they just have 3 sizes, and then you adjust it to whether you want it. So for me, it's 480 or 472, and I think it goes down to 460 somewhere, just from the same size in terms of reach anyway. So that's perfect.
Cool. Both you and Jack are on SR Suntour suspension. How close in performance is what you're both riding to the kind of traditional big two of Fox and RockShox, do you think?
You've been on them for a while now, have you, Jack? How many years?
I started on it in 2019.
So same as me.
End of 2018.
Yeah.
Didn't you come on it 2020?
Last year. Oh, yeah, 2020. Sorry.
So I've had 3 and you've had...
Yeah.
This is your second, my third.
Yeah. Yeah, so the performance is quite different to the new Fox, but not in a negative way. They just perform slightly differently. I know that the new Fox tends to ramp up really firm, almost immediately, whereas the fork I run at the minute, I have a little more travel, get through a little more travel before it starts to ramp up like the Fox. I really like it. It works really well for me. But, it's hard to tell when you do back-to-back tests from different products. It's very hard to tell the exact differences. But, no, I'm more than happy, and it's all good.
Sweet.
You're on a team with Mick and Tracy again this season. How much help is having 2 vastly experienced pros around you week in, week out?
Yeah, it's one of the things I was most excited about when joining the UR team last year. As we all know, they've been, I think this is Mick's 20th pro season. Not sure exactly for Trace, but not far off that. And they've both been at the top for so long. So just being able to live with them, train with them, race with them, learn how they do everything, learn how they approach a weekend, they approach a race run, their training. It's masses of lessons, like day in, day out. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity to get to learn from them. Mick, for example, he's super smart with his racing. Just some of the lines and things he spots, they're so simple, but nobody spots them. Just like taking off the sides of jumps or missing a hole here or making it straight. He's very simple, but it's like he's just very, very smart. He spots things that other people don't. And we always share all our information together with lines, and we talk about everything. And to see his view on that is really, really, really interesting. And learn a lot from it.
Yeah, he's a really calm, really honest guy, and so good to follow. Just carries. I've said this before on the pod. He just carries momentum so well and carries speed. So. Yeah, absolutely. Lucky to have that, that's for sure. So, Leo Gang, first World Cup of the season, you had a great top split with 4th, and then I believe you left the motorway around 15th, I think, and then at the bottom, 30th. I know you were disappointed. Talk us through the run.
Yeah, absolutely. Like coming from Schladming, the test session, like the week before, where I won that, I knew the pace was good and I felt comfortable and I was happy. So, I think it's the first ever year I've come into Leogang where I think, if somebody's going to win, why not me? And I've never, ever come into a season with that mindset. Yeah. So that's it's a really nice feeling and one I've never experienced before. But that in itself helps massively with confidence for the week. As we all know, it's a very challenging week, weather-wise, track-wise. But for my race run itself, the top was all good. I let myself push the limits, push my comfort zone, which is a huge achievement because I do struggle to do that sometimes. And then really happy with the 4th at the top split. And then, I think it was 14th and 16th, the splits after that. And then unfortunately, finishing the 30th at the bottom definitely wasn't what I was wanting. But again, loads of lessons learned. I just didn't ride the woods well. I made too many mistakes, undercommitted. I was sort of trying to rush it, but not committing. And I just rode really badly, to be honest. And I regret it, but it's lessons learned. I should have stayed a bit more patient and committed to doing the small things well. But instead I was just a bit too rushed, a bit too unsettled. My body position was bad. And it just wasn't a good run through the woods. But I think with that race, all you needed to do was smash the woods. If you look at Reece Wilson's splits, I think he was all his splits were in the 20s. Yeah. And then he gets to the woods, and when he comes out into the finish, he was 4th at the end of the race, I think. Yeah. So it's at that race, all you need to do was ride the woods really well. And unfortunately, that's the one thing I didn't ride well. So, lessons learned, but I know the speed's there, and it just fires me up even more for the next ones.
Yeah, nice. So you then went on to Crankworx Innsbruck, and unfortunately had a crash there. I watched you run, looked like you were on really good pace until you did go down, and you were only 9 seconds back on Loris's winning time. How did you feel after that event? Did you feel like you had renewed confidence because you knew you were flying, or have you took another hit from crashing? Talk us through the feeling leaving Crankworx.
Yeah, again, super disappointed to crash out of that race, but I was actually quite happy after the run because I'd let myself push.
Nice.
I had the confidence to commit, and I knew I was racing for the win instead of just racing to finish somewhere in the field, Yep. And it's a very different mindset, and you can't, in my experience, you can't just race for the win. You have to believe you actually can, and I'm definitely in that place at the minute. So I was super happy to be allowing myself to push that hard. And it was a simple mistake near the bottom where I just lost the front. I just missed a catch of a rut and lost the front. I know exactly what happened, and I was trying to change gear at the same time. So it was all just too much going on. But to be honest, I was happy. At the end, I was obviously, again, really annoyed because it's oh, come on, I'm so close. When's it going to actually all come together? But I just know I got to stay patient. I got to keep doing what I'm doing. And again, one of the other biggest things is to win, you have to accept that you might fail. In order to allow yourself to win, you have to accept that you might crash, you might fail. But I think realizing that and committing to the win like that is like the hardest thing to do. So I was happy with my mindset, with my riding. And again, it was just that one small mistake that took me out of contention then.
I think you would have been
fully support that. Like, a lot of listeners may have listened to that and thought, what's he talking about? If you're racing, of course you're racing to do your best. But it's not the case. Like, as Joe said, like, you will ride based on the mentality you have at the event. And if you're at the event fully believing in the way you're riding, and you can, let's use what Joe says as an example, you can win the race, then you're going to go out and attack, and you have to allow yourself to do that. You can't ride defensive or safe conservatively anywhere. You need to be full charge. And there's a big difference between doing that and going, I'm gonna just ride really nice and get everything really good. Well, I'm sorry, mate. Somebody's just going to take 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, and that's just going to, and all of a sudden you might be 5-6 seconds back by the bottom. And then also add into it what we heard Gwynne say earlier when he was consistently at the top. He said he never really felt like he was kind of taking huge risks like we've seen clearly Deprella doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that is because at the time, Aaron fully believed in his own ability. So he just rode like that all the time. So yeah, I fully agree with what Joe's just said. If he wants to win these races, you've got to keep chancing your apples, because you'll just get better and better and better at riding at that speed.
Yeah, I perfectly agree with what Jack just said. And to me, like, in the last couple of years when I've raced nationals, I know when I turn up like national champs, national rounds, I know I can win. I know I have a good chance of winning. And there's like this extra adrenaline, extra motivation to push for every 10th. Because you might know, like, a 10th could separate first and second. It could be you winning or finishing second. Whereas, say at a World Cup in previous years when every 10th might mean 30th or 31st, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So it's like you get this massive extra load of adrenaline and ability to just want to commit to every single 10th. So it's a weird switch, and I'm so like pleased to sort of be in this place.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's exciting. When I counted when you were down in Innsbruck, you were down. It took, say, 5 seconds out of you being on the floor and getting back up, I'd say. And then you've lost your momentum and everything. So you would have been up there. You would have been pushing Loris's time, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I think I was happy with the pace. I know it's definitely up there. Who knows what could have been or this and that. But I'm just happy to be riding in this place. And hopefully, I'll keep working. And hopefully sooner rather than later, it will all come together.
Cool. Well, before we get into this week, let's talk World Enduro for a minute, because you had a go in Val di Fassa, didn't you?
Yeah.
56. Say again?
Let's please not talk about it.
56th overall. How did you find it?
Please be honest.
Yes, it's not an Enduro podcast specifically, so I can say as I want. To start with, it's an amazing venue. Lovely place to be, lovely tracks to ride, but I wouldn't say lovely tracks to race. I was told going into it that it was very much a downhill-based enduro, that it was very, the tracks were very much like downhill tracks and there wasn't much pedaling, etc. But unfortunately, it definitely wasn't quite like that. There was mint sections, but separated by some pretty nasty pedals and uphill fire road sprints. And yeah, I definitely struggled. I just turned up with, to be honest, very little, if any, preparation. If you look at how we prepare for World Cups, we spend months testing on the downer bike, going against the clock on the downer bike, riding different tracks. And all I'd done on my Enduro bike was literally just train for downhill, do a few long rides and chill on the downhill. So it was quite weird coming in. And yeah, I gave it everything I had for the first round and finished in the 50s. And it's really to be honest, I felt like I went and did a bodge job. I don't like going into something without fully preparing and giving everything. And I mean, it was a cool experience, but it's definitely hard work. And I don't believe after doing that, I know I can't just turn up to World Enduro without any prep and expect to do really well. them boys at the top are so gnarly, so fit, technically advanced. And yeah, I don't think you can expect to just walk in anymore and be fighting at the top with them boys. So yeah, great experience, but it's hard to balance that and downhill. I think I'll definitely focus on my downhill.
You won't be staying out for La Tuile then?
No, I was considering it, and again, everybody keeps telling me, La Tuile's like the really downhill one. I'm like, I've heard this so many times before. Yeah,
they've told me that, and I think I'm going, and I'm like, I'll be the judge of that.
So, are you racing Hamsterley, the first national?
I won't be now.
You're going to do champs the week after?
Yeah, exactly. So travel home. I think I've done maybe 6 or 7 weeks racing on the trot now. So go home. It'd be nice to have 1 week. 1 weekend off, and then it's national champs, followed by Red Bull Hardline a few days later. So it's pretty non-stop still. So I'd like a week away at home off from racing.
Nice. So on to this week then. We've walked the track. Are you liking the look of it?
Yeah, it looks proper. It looks serious. Like walking it then, it was super slick, not a lot of grip at all, but proper. Like I wouldn't say gnarly because it's not like Val d'Isle gnarly. It's just like super wide, super loamy, and I think it's going to change massively. There'll be some creative lines. It's just like seems like a proper World Cup to me. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I would fully agree. And I was asked about it earlier after walking it at the bottom, and I think if I was sat here fully fit and not worrying about falling off my bike on my shoulder, I would be just so excited. But I'm just kind of convincing myself that I can stay on my bike and not hurt my shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's, as Joe just said, steep, slippery. So yeah, I'm going to use Dan in the morning, send him out front and follow him down and get up to speed and see if I can find and avoid the dodgy routes and nasty bits. And I hope it stays dry. And once we've ridden in some lines, I think it's going to be unreal. Yeah. So overall, I'm excited. I just need to tell the part of my brain that's what
I know exactly how you feel. It's definitely not the most predictable track, and it's going to be changing every run. Conditions are going to be changing every run. So, there's a lot of variables at play, and that always makes it more nerve-wracking and less consistent.
That feeds into my next question. What's your plan for the week?
Plan for the week. Execute my process as well as possible, as I'm sure you hear a lot of, but it's not to get too hooked up on the results or anything, but to just focus on doing the best I can in every single thing from spinning, recovering, preparing, etc. Enjoying the weekend and taking it day by day. I'm going to go there and give it everything for sure, but let's not get too hooked up on anything else.
No, fair enough.
So maybe I will ask you this question. The first part you might dodge.
No, go ahead.
Hopes for this weekend and hopes for the season.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, everybody has these thoughts of where they want to be, where they think they should be, etc. For me, a top 10 would be great. Yes. I'd be super happy. Yeah. A top 20, I'd still leave happy. Anything outside of that, I mean, it's not where I want to be, that's for sure. But I'm always learning, I'm always pushing. As long as I'm, committing as a rider, I don't want to be riding cautious anymore, real safety. That's what really frustrates me. So as long as I'm in this zone and I'm committing for the win, shall I say, then that would be a good week for me. And I would really like to think that would end me up, somewhere around top 10, top 20, top 10 would be amazing, and top 20 I'd still be happy. So
yes.
Who knows? Let's just go and give it everything. Exactly.
Well, last question. If I remember correctly, you were both schoolboy footballers with professional clubs. I presume you both watched the match last night. Can England win the Euros?
Not if he plays the team he started, no. If he starts Grealish and gets Foden involved and Harry Kane actually starts playing football, maybe they've got a chance because the defence and the goalkeeper are unreal. That's my take on it. It was a boring game because of the players he had on the pitch. What do you think?
Unfortunately, I can't add to that whatsoever.
Didn't watch it.
As soon as Wales...
of course
I'm
you
Welsh,
yeah.
not English. Nah.
Yeah, of course. I always forget that. Sorry, Joe. I need to stop getting actually.
Nice one. Well, nice one, Joe. And best of luck for this weekend and for the rest of the season. Thanks for coming on the pod. That's all we've got time for this week. Best of luck to you and Dan, Jack. Are you excited for it?
Oh, for sure. Apprehensive going into first run, as I've explained, but I know from many, many years of experience that I just need to get the first run out of the way, and then I'll be into it and I'll be loving it. So, yeah. Excellent.
We'll have a good one. Thanks to the sponsors of the show, Hope Technology, JTech Suspension, Revolution Bike Park, Ride Sudden Spain, Schwalbe and SingleTrackWorld.com. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you've got a sec, please drop us a review. Alternatively, please give us a follow on Instagram at Making Up the Numbers Racing or Facebook.com/Making Up the Numbers. Thanks very much for listening. We'll be back soon.